Sorry about that, everyone. The meeting of the Montecito City Council for November 5th will come to order. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Elahi.
Present.
Councilmember Labouvet.
Present.
Councilmember Luthold.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Lawler.
Present.
Mayor Turner.
Present. Please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any changes to the orders of the day?
Oh, yes.
I do believe there's a request from council. I do believe there's a request from Councilmember Elahi to move a couple of items around.
Yeah, I was thinking about doing that to have the elections that we're, selection that we're doing for the committees first and then do the reach codes later on.
Let me ask Councilmember Kumar if you're going to be.
No, he was
available.
still going to do his presentation first.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
we'll
can-
do his
yes.
presentation
Yeah, we're
first.
just
Okay.
talking about when we get to unfinished business.
Okay,
The rest of the matters fine.
okay.
Is that acceptable to the rest of the council, to move those two? All right, thank you.
Okay, so our first order of business is presentation, and tonight we have a presentation from Saratoga City Council member Rishi Kumar on the San Jose Water Company rate increases.
Okay, I'm delighted to be here. My name is Rishi Kumar. I'm a council member of Saratoga in my second term. And good evening, Mayor Turner and council members. Thank you for inviting me. I'm actually here on the invitation of council member Javed Elahi and city manager Terry Blount. And the plan is to talk about the water situation we are in, and that we have been sort of working for many years now to address some of the rate increases that we have seen on our water bill. And so we'll provide you some context in terms of what we have been working on for the last few years and successes we have had, and perhaps a suggested mode of action that the council members could consider by putting it on the agenda for discussion and arriving at some sort of a conclusion, mode of action, so that's hopefully we can get there. But I would like to start with a quick summary as to where we are today with this. So essentially what we have is we have a monopoly water company, AKA San Jose Water Company. And their profits have gone up quite a bit over the last few years. And some of us have been protesting these rate increase filings. And the story so far, we have rejected, reduced, and suspended 7 water rate increases. Terry, if you would like to scroll up and just show the summary table that we have of it's all the way to the top.
At the top of this page?
Yes, exactly. It's scroll down and right there, just scroll a little bit up. Yes, it's right there. AL5, yeah, that's Are the protests helping? So that's a summary of what we have done so far. And these protests actually started back in January of 2017. And we had, if you recall the summer of 2016, there was a surcharge in place. And there was a drought mandate that back then Governor Brown had announced. And so based on that, San Jose Water Company had presented to CPUC a drought surcharge that was applied to the bill. So think of the surcharge almost like a quota or a ration system, where based upon what tier you fell into your utilization of water, you were being billed based on that. And so we started protesting back then. And this website that you're seeing right now is my website, rishikumar.com/water, which has a lot of different information about water. Now, there is also, I would like to say in summary, there is also a growing movement. We have seen lately with PG&E, a movement to municipalize PG&E. So there is a movement to see how we can municipalize San Jose Water Company as well. And about, I would say, 3,500 people or so have signed this petition, which is on this website, but also you can visit tinyurl.com/no-more-sjwc, which is tinyurl.com/no-more San Jose Water Company, which is no more SJWC. And so to summarize the success we have had so far, which is what you can see on the screen, CPUC, we have been protesting pretty much every rate increase proposal that has been proposed by San Jose Water Company since January of 2017. So the story on that so far, CPUC has suspended Advice Letter 532. They have suspended Advice Letter 534. And the return on equity, which is A.1704-001, that was filing by San Jose Water Company, was approved at 8.3% instead of the 10.8% return on equity that was requested by San Jose Water Company. And there's a video that is currently on the website, which was a lot of us showed up at the San Jose City Hall to speak up on that. And that was arranged by Mayor Sam Liccardo and Councilmember Don Rocha from those days. And so a lot of us, many of us showed up there to speak up against. And so it went through a process, and the final approval rate was below what San Jose Water Company had requested. Also, Advice Letter 512 was withdrawn by San Jose Water Company and no reason stated. And this had been earlier suspended by CPUC. Advice Letter 510 was rejected, and Advice Letter 501, which was 3.65% increase, was rejected by CPUC. And obviously, we touched upon the drought mandate. Okay, so that is a quick summary as to what has happened so far with water. So let's talk a little bit about the problem statement, the problem that we have on hand. So San Jose Water Company provides water to about 229,000 metered connection, and which is a population of about 1 million. And what cities? So they are essentially about 80% of the city of San Jose, parts of Cupertino, but it also, all of these cities, which includes Saratoga, Montecito, Campbell, and Los Gatos, and unincorporated Santa Clara County. So in the drought year of 2016, San Jose Water Company profits went from a baseline. So when I say a baseline, Terry, if you don't mind scrolling down to the table below, I'll tell you, right there. So if you see the table, in 2012, 2011, 2010, their profits were about, and 2018 as well, their profits were about $22 million. So it was $22 million in 2013, 2012, and 2011. So that's what we look at as a baseline. And then when you look at 2016, their profits went to $52 million. And then in 2017, their profits went to $59 million. And so to summarize, it is a simple fact that our water bills have gone up in the last few years. And there's a lot of data points that we have on my website that basically talks about it. So what's the solution? What do we do with this? So San Jose Water Company is an investor-owned utility company. And by that, what do you mean by that? It's not a public utility company. What is the difference? San Jose Water Company operates with the fundamental principle of providing customer satisfaction, right? I mean, they're in the business of making a profit, and they want to make sure that they provide customer satisfaction, but also make a profit. A municipal service utility company is not profit. That is not the utility's mission. So that's a core difference between a company like San Jose Water Company versus a municipal utility company that Santa Clara has and that Palo Alto has to provide water to their residents. So the one other statement I would like to make is that you and I, by that I mean all of you council members and myself, we do not have jurisdiction over San Jose Water Company. We do not. Who has jurisdiction over San Jose Water Company? And the answer is the California Public Utility Commission. We have 5 commissioners who are appointed by the governor. And I believe the 5 that we have today were appointed by Governor Brown. So what I did was, I realized there was a problem. I brought this up on the agenda on the Saratoga City Council. And we put it on the agenda calendar, we talked about it, we looked at different mode of options. I believe I did that in 2017. And we actually talked about having a rate analyst. because this is a very complex topic. If you look at any rate filing by San Jose Water Company, it is extremely complex. And there is a lot of elements behind it that we need to understand. So we talked about a rate analyst that could engage with CPUC to monitor the filings. I believe that will be very helpful, but it's an expensive proposal because the rate analyst, they have many years, perhaps decades of experience, expertise, and they don't come that cheap. And what is needed to make that happen is a convergence of all these different cities, which is the 5 cities: San Jose, Las Caras, Montessorino, Campbell, and Saratoga, 5 cities. We need a convergence. We need to collaborate, just like we have Silicon Valley Clean Energy that we have rolled out with, I believe, over 12 cities, including Saratoga. So we have that option to consider what we could do to collaborate to deal with this water issue we have. But nothing is done in that regard yet. But the issue was the people were very unhappy. I mean, I've gone to San Jose City Hall, at least 2 public hearings, and I would say about 200, 300 people were there, and they were all sort of unhappy. And they were from all these 5 cities, not just one city. They were actually from all 5 cities. And people were unhappy, and we couldn't find a way to address the rate increase filings. So I work in the high tech, and sometimes I may not have the solution, but I always believe in one thing, which is to take the first step. So that's exactly what we did. And we said, you know, I do not have jurisdiction over San Jose Water Company. What we can do, though, is to basically send out protest emails to CPUC because they are a decision maker on this. You know, it's basically what we ended up doing was to understand what the process is. We communicated the process to our citizens, to social media, my mailing list. This is the problem. Here is how the process works. And this is what we need to do to ensure that we are able to influence the decision makers. So that's really what we ended up doing. And we started protesting. And we basically, initially it was like stuff on my website. But the question is, who is we? When we say we started protesting, who's we? So let me elaborate on that. I know the Montessorino council members jointly sent out a letter. I'm pretty sure Ravina was there, and I don't know who else was there back then.
We did it twice.
Twice, yeah. So that protest was sent to CPUC, and it was very, very helpful. So thank you for doing that. Like I mentioned, Mayor Sam Liccardo engaged with this from San Jose, Councilmember Don Rocha back then. They wanted public hearings, so they also engaged with this. Many community activist groups engaged with this, including RATES, which is based out in Saratoga. They joined these meetings and expressed their angst with San Jose Water Company proposals. And there have been 2 public hearing proposals in the San Jose City Hall. I've spoken at these hearings. Something else that I ended up doing was rolling out an app on the App Store and the Google Play Store, which is called Silicon Valley Water, which makes the protest a lot easier. Because you download that app, you fill your name, email information, it pulls content from my website, it populates it, the person can review it, and then they can hit send. So it literally takes 30 seconds to send out a protest email. And we try to make it easier because the part of the process is to send an email to CPUC, and people actually started requesting that. Rishi, it's too cumbersome to come to your website to copy, paste, and all that kind of stuff. So we made it easier. So the record is thousands of email have gone out to CPUC from all of these cities and since in 2017, 2018, and 2019. We will continue to push the protest. It's very important. And essentially, every time there is a rate increase proposal, we are basically inviting people to protest on that particular proposal. And there is a very specific way how we protest it, which is actually documented in the rate filing of San Jose Water Company. So we follow that process, we put in, and this process of protesting is obviously working because we have been successful in CPUC looking at each rate increase proposal with a magnifying glass. That's what they have done. Because when they start receiving 50, 100, 200 emails for each rate filing, their staff members, and also there is an overseeing body called ORA, I believe, and they all start looking at it and they start analyzing that. And the process that we initially thought may work is working, actually. So these protests is definitely working. So in conclusion, while we come up with a bigger strategic plan, there is a bigger strategic plan needed in terms of how we need to address that. The tactical component of what we are doing right now is to protest. It's very important. So I invite the Montezurino Council members to agendize this, to discuss it, and whenever possible, to send out letters to CPUC. I think if you jointly send out a letter to CPUC for every rate increase filing, I think that would be very, very helpful. And I also would like to suggest that perhaps if you are able to invite the community to protest by sending their emails, that would also be very helpful. But this is, like I said, this is the tactical approach. The strategic approach long-term is something that our cities have to collaborate on. So people say, in fact, people always come to us and say, Rishi, why don't we roll out a water company for the city of Saratoga? It's very difficult because we are a small city and it takes a lot to run a water utility company or manage it. But if we the cities banded together, then I think that's a good possibility, just like the Silicon Valley Clean Energy. And so that is my suggestion for Montezurino to agendize this, discuss it, and figure out what kind of mode of action. Perhaps the city managers could meet up with Saratoga, Montezurino, even San Jose, and some brainstorming in terms of what needs to be done. But obviously, I think we don't have clear-cut answers in terms of how we address this for the long term, and needs the convergence of leaders from these cities to figure out a mode of action. So with that, that's the end of my presentation. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
I think you've got some good suggestions. We can probably look at it a future agenda item to see if collaboration is possible. Maybe you can keep us posted as to if there is any other city who's moving in that direction.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep. Thank you.
Do you have any comment on the recent acquisition and how that affects all of these rate increases and so forth?
Yes, I did not. I actually, this was, I think my presentation probably went too long, but I skipped on quite a few things, which includes the merger. And we were actually protesting the merger also. I mean, we protested a lot of different things. For example, they also send out insurance, what do you call it? We get mailers from a third party to buy insurance on behalf of San Jose Water Company. And I believe, based on my research, that insurance is not necessary, but we get that. So we protested that one too with CPUC. We have protested a lot of different things. Now, with the specific to the merger, it makes San Jose Water Company like the third largest water utility company in the United States. And the bigger they get, it becomes harder. Plus, I think when you have Connecticut PUC, California PUC, then it becomes a little bit more difficult in terms of how we manage it. So we felt that it was in the best interest of the customers to not have that merger. So we did end up protest on that. Yep. Any other?
I have a question.
Yes.
I think in 2017, the CEO of San Jose Water received a $3 million bonus. Does that go on every year?
In 2017, in particular, it's actually there as part of our protest emails that go out. We have included that particular data point. Yes, it's there. So if you
Every year they do this. He gets $3 million or more.
Yes. So if you go to this website, rishikumar.com/water, and if you click on a Google Doc link that we have in there, and you scroll down, there are lots of other data points that are included as part of pretty much every protest email that goes out, including comparison of water rates from one city with our cities, things like that. Lots of data points. Now, I haven't really put together those data points myself, but people send me those data points. We analyze it, we look at it, and then we include it as part of our data point that CPUC should analyze. Yes, but thank you, Mayor Turner, for mentioning that, but it's actually there in this. Yep. Any other questions? I'm happy to come back anytime you would like to, and if you would like to get together for coffee, I'm also happy to do that as well. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So let's move on, and our next item on the agenda is oral communications. Andrea, do we have anybody?
No oral
We have no
communications.
oral communications. We have no written communications, or I guess we have one. And I'll go over that when we go to the REACH code. So now let's move on to the consent calendar. So we have 6 items on the consent calendar, which we will take in one motion. Does anyone on the council wish to speak on items 1 or 2?
I think I need to speak on number 2, which is the warrant list.
Okay,
There is a expense that was paid to me for attending the League of City Council convention 3 days in Long Beach,
Yes.
of about $958.73. And that includes hotel room, travel, and everything else. And it was an excellent convention, had a lot of discussion about which direction the city should go to.
is that it?
That's it.
Anybody else? Okay, does anyone have anything to say about items 3, 4, and 5? No?
No.
Okay, so let's move to item 6.
For item 6, I'd like to make a motion that we pull this one from consent calendar and actually just delay it to another meeting for further discussion.
Okay, so Sergio, we're going to go ahead and take a motion for items 1 to 5.
Okay.
Do I have a motion?
Got it.
I have
It's
a
on the
motion-
wrong screen.
I can't see it, so,
I have a motion from Councilmember Luthold, a second by Mayor Pro Tem Lawler.
okay,
That's on 1 through 5.
That's on 1 through 5.
that's on 1 to 5.
Okay, I have 3 votes in.
And mine's stuck, so I vote
Okay.
in the affirmative.
So let me do a roll call. So Councilmember Alahi,
Yes.
Councilmember Labouvet,
Yes.
Councilmember Luthold,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lawler,
Yes.
and Mayor Turner.
Yes.
Okay, so that passes 5-0.
So we will now move to item 6. Councilmember Lebouvet?
So I just get to make a motion here, right?
Yes.
So I'd like to make a motion that we pull this from the consent calendar and delay this to a future agenda item.
What's the reason for that?
It's a complicated issue. We haven't discussed it. There's a lot of provisions in here. Yeah, I'm not ready to vote on this one yet.
Is there anything time-sensitive on this? Terry, do you know?
Actually, we have, I believe, Jeannie, you're here. Can you come up, please, for us? Jeannie Hamilton, our city planner, she worked on this application, and she can answer any questions that you might have.
Might be worth listening to the staff report on it, since we're still confused, I guess we can push it out.
Mayor Turner and fellow council members, this is a pretty straightforward planning grant application. In essence, it's monies available for projects that comply with planning points, or as I stated in the staff report, there is a deadline to submit, November 30th. That falls over the holiday. I have passed the application through the consultants that were hired by the State Department of Housing and Community Development to ensure that our proposals are in fact in line with the state's guidelines. So quite honestly, I question why we would not submit and risk missing the deadline. If we do get it in earlier than the deadline, if there's anything missing, we have a chance of correcting it prior to that deadline. So again, with that, this is the project's proposed. I think some of the council members may already be familiar with the requirement to address our own regulations and guidelines to bring them in conformance with recent state laws. And in order to really get to this in a efficient and comprehensive manner. That's why we've developed the project to hire a planning consultant. Although I'd love to do the work myself, the reality is it's not going to happen while I also cover all the others. The other project is one that's already underway, which again is going to help our community support the development and efficient processing of new homes, remodels, accessory dwelling units, again, which is in line with one of the guidelines that the state Housing and Community Development has for cities in the state.
I'm sorry, when was the deadline?
November 30th. That falls over the Thanksgiving holiday, though.
So in a nutshell, what are the pros and cons? You know, the pros is we're getting asking for a $160,000 grant,
Exactly.
basically. And what's the downside? We have to hire a consultant, pay them some fees?
No. If you looked at the proposal, is all of the cost of the project is designed to be covered by the grant. So if we don't get a grant, it's all out of the city's budget, and it's work that we have to do anyway. So knowing that we're doing that, you know, staff, I quite honestly don't see any cons. It's basically, as has been presented to us on numerous occasions at conferences, at seminars, this is pretty easy money, which is why HCD has hired consultants to work with communities to ensure that their applications are complete, concise, and basically put together in a fashion that HCD can approve it. I've done that work. I've had the consultants look at it. I responded to their comments, so we feel pretty confident that this application is one that will be supported by the state and the monies granted to the city.
So does it require us to make any changes to any of our zoning codes or permit codes or anything else?
The state laws require us to make those changes, so we're either going to do it on city money or on state money.
Thank you.
Are there any implications with respect to future legislation that's kind of in the works that this could tie us up in some negative way? Have you looked at any of that?
Legislation that currently going to be in effect is why we're moving forward with this project. So maybe I'm not understanding your question. I apologize,
Well, I
but
guess with legislation that's, well, that's still in committee, that hasn't been passed, but, you know, there's always going to be something new. And
Yeah,
I just don't
and
know if there's been any consideration towards how this.
there may
would
be additional
impact us.
funds down the line. Again, these monies are coming from, different mechanisms, so there may be additional grant opportunities in subsequent years that we could then access to, again, do additional work that's required by new legislation. We just had the, 5 bills related to ADUs. That's something that I think we're confident that staff can accomplish within that short time frame. This other legislation, again, SB 330 and any of SB 35 that may be relevant to our town, our city, I think is a lot more complex. It's going to take a lot more time, involve community outreach. So that's why that sort of project, I think, is more appropriate to really get the grant money so that we can do the best job that we can, whether it's city planning staff or consultants. I would be working with those consultants to be that knowledgeable person relative to our own community.
I have a question. There was an ADU bill that was recently passed October the 9th. I think it's 1487. That says that if we were to take money to build an ADU from a nonprofit organization, then basically the city will give up the right to that ADU, and they can sell that ADU separate from a house that's on that ADU. So would this be part of that, if we get the grant money?
I'm not aware of that, Bill. I'm not quite, I mean, I know there's the
My
5
computer doesn't work,
ADUs,
so I can't read it.
but
Well, just to make it clear, Mayor Turner, this grant is not targeted to any of the work on ADUs. The grant money would be strictly for the objective standards work that needs to be done, as well as for potentially helping to offset the cost for the Camino permit guide and the permit tracking system. It has no relationship to the ADUs.
So can we move this to our next meeting, so it'll give us a chance to take a look at that? Given that we have 18 bills that were passed by Governor Newsom that we really don't know about, and all of them have to do with affordable housing.
I guess,
you could, I'm going to throw something else out there. We can submit the application, we can be approved for the monies. We never have to ask for reimbursement if we don't want to. Again, it's not money given to us so we can decide whether or not how we move forward with the projects. The ADU bills, Sergio and I have been researching them. People are still trying to meld them all together and give guidance. There's no community out there that's done all the changes to the muni codes on all those ADU bills. There's like 5 at least. So a lot of them are repetitive within each other. Those sort of things about whether the city takes money from a nonprofit we're working through that. The bulk of the project that we'd like to use monies or get reimbursed for the cost of is initially looking at, dealing with that objective versus subjective standards with our subdivision ordinance, our zoning regulations, and our design guidelines. There are a lot of.
I'm not too worried about ADU bills that are repetitive. I'm more worried about ADU bills that contradict one another.
Well, again,
And we have 5 of them, and we're not sure what
That's
they
correct, but
contain.
again, this grant money would not be used for anything related to ADUs.
yeah, the money is just a request to dip into a pot of money that is available if we want to dip into it
correct,
for the planning purposes that are here. If we don't submit that, it's not available to us.
correct.
And we're not committing ourselves to any particular use other than in the scope, if we do want to pursue this money later on.
Correct.
It's got to be in the scope that they define it for, so.
And who negotiates for the Montessorino side on this one?
Who negotiates for what?
For our grant money?
There's no negotiation. Well,
Who applies and who's the project manager in charge of this?
the city manager is authorized to submit the application if you approve the resolution. And then as we move through the projects, as I put on I don't know if it's on here. Did you attach the application? One of the first step is to do it, for one of them, is to do an RFP for a consultant to address the objectives, subjective, and guidelines. We go through that. Again, it's a normal RFP process, consultant selection process. Once we do that, we could then submit for reimbursement to cover the costs of that part of that project. And like I said in the staff report, council would have to do a budget amendment to agree to move forward with that project. So this grant application doesn't force your hand at that, per se. You still have the ability to act on a request, a budget request, to move forward with a project, to hire a consultant to do the work necessary.
And separately, of course, the money's going to be used to hire a consultant to help develop objective design development standards. And, just because a consultant develops those standards, it still has to go through the city's regular process of adoption. So the council's going to have the opportunity to review what, once the money is used and creates an end product. You guys get to be responsible for reviewing and approving the end product.
So I have basically two issues with this. So I did read through the staff report and the application, and the whole premise of this money is to streamline housing development. So this is all very much aligned with Gavin Newsom's attempt to build out the valley and to build out Monte Sereno and to put in place objective standards with a goal of building in a different way and by right laws versus our current standard of using the Monte Sereno General Plan and having a site and architecture committee that evaluates things subjectively based on community standards. So there's a yin and a yang to these in terms of we do have zoning and we'd like certain pieces of our housing decisions to be based on zoning and objective standards, and then we have another part that is very subjective, which is basically, applies much more to community standards. And so, I don't like the intent of this money, and so if we sign up for this, we're basically signing up to the Gavin Newsom and California mandates or their philosophy in terms of accelerating this type of building. I think that in the past year, we've been talking about using objective standards in a strategic way to reinforce our general plan, not to subvert our general plan and do things to accelerate building. And so, and then the second piece that I really don't like about this is basically, so I don't like the way the statement of work was written. And the way the statement of work reads, just to me, is the wrong connotation of what we've been talking about for a full year. And I don't like that, we're in the process of changing out city managers, and this basically allows city manager to kind of authorize whatever comes back from the state to execute on this agreement. So I would just forego this money at this point. I don't, so if needed, or if other people agree, I would just make a motion to kill this right here and now, or we can delay and talk about it a week from now. But I just really am opposed to this whole idea.
Okay, so, any other comments?
Yeah, I think staff's done a good job of presenting it. They've studied it, they're recommending it, and we have to depend on our staff and not, pick apart everything that they do because there's something that may happen in the future. There's nothing here that requires us to do something that the state will not force us to do later on. I mean, if Newsom state's going to pass some laws requiring us to do some rezoning or re-permitting, our hands are going to be pretty tied. What this allows us to do is come up with objective standards and get ahead of the 8 ball and be where we are not forced to be later on. And we have to do it with their money rather than having to spend our own money doing it. So I would suggest we look at what the staff has accomplished and putting this together. Maybe there's some verbiages that are not as appealing as we would like, but the intent is clear. And again, as it said, we don't have to accept the money when it comes in. We can say at that point, yeah, no, we're not going to use that money. And if there are going to be anything that's tied at that point, we can make an issue. But at this point, apply for the grant. It's $160,000. It's going to help you out.
Jeannie, you have the application complete, correct? Mm-hmm. So since we have some council members that would like to obviously explore this further, I suggest that we push it off to the next meeting. You already have it complete, so then you could still submit it at that point if once everyone is satisfied with the research and the information they get. Does that sound fair?
Well, the council needs to take a vote.
Yes, so let's go ahead and take a vote.
So I actually have a motion on the table from Councilmember LaBouvet, who motioned to postpone it.
To postpone.
I believe we need a second for that motion if it's to move
I
forward.
have a second
Oh, we do? Okay.
by Mayor Pro Tem Lawler. Should be able to vote. I'll call you. Can you vote? Okay, I'll take a roll call. Councilmember Elahi,
No.
Councilmember LaBouvet,
Yes.
Councilmember Luthold,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Lawler,
Yes.
Mayor Turner.
Yes.
So it passes 3-2.
This one.
Okay, so now I don't have my computer.
We were going to move to new business,
Shall we move to do business? Okay, so
Better Streets Commission
now we're going to
appointments.
move to the appointments for the Better Streets Commission and Site and Architecture. We'll start with the Better Streets Commission. The council will consider 3 applications for appointment to fill 3 vacancies from our pool of residents. And we would like to hear at this time from our 3 applicants. Each applicant will have 2 minutes to come up here and to speak for themselves. And our first applicant is Barry Chapin. Okay, so our second applicant is Shalini Saxena.
Hi, you all know me. My name is Shalini Saxena. I just live across the street. Applying for Better Street Commission to be part of this commission and maybe help out with betterment of our streets and some of the things I've been noticing on our street just to make it more safer for our kids, for adults, for pets, everyone. Like we are missing speed signs all over our city. Nowhere there is a recommended speed limit anywhere. And I know our youth commission did a very good job of making those sticky posters to put on the garbage bins. But problem is that garbage bins are out only once a week for 12 hours. They are coming in the evening, going in the morning. Nobody notices it that 25 is the recommended speed, and they actually take it as a recommendation. Nobody take it seriously, and I see people flying by my house all the time, even sometime at 50 miles per hour, which is very unsafe for little kids playing. I have 4 kids around my house who keep crossing the street all the time, and some dogs walking and some new neighbors, and it just seems very unsafe. So some of those issues we need to address, and we all have seen a lot of construction going around, and when somebody is remodeling their house or rebuilding their house, they don't actually take care of the sidewalk, and it is becoming crooked many places. And one time, even I fell down when I was walking my dog, so I'm pretty sure others are having the same issue. So I would like to be part of that solution, and that's why I applied for this position.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And so now we'd like to hear from our third applicant, Megan Spencer.
She emailed she could not make tonight's
Oh, she
meeting.
couldn't make it tonight? Okay, so are there any questions from the council? No? Okay, if none, can I have a motion to appoint 3 of the vacancies to the Better Streets Commission?
So moved. I guess.
Second, anybody second?
Second.
Okay,
By Councilmember Lahi, a second by Councilmember Luthold. Okay, so Councilmember Lahi,
Yes.
Councilmember Labouvet,
Yes.
Councilmember Luthold,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lawler,
Yes.
Mayor Turner. Okay,
okay, so now the council will consider 2 applications for appointment to fill 1 vacancy for a youth commission to serve as an ex officio member. And we would like to hear from our first applicant. Our first applicant is Rishi Saxena.
Hello, everyone. I'm here today to talk about why I want to be on the Better Streets Commission. So I've lived here for 5 years now, and I'm obviously on the Youth Commission, and I've seen a lot of the issues that have been plaguing both our streets and also stormwater runoff. And so in this part of the street over here, a lot of stormwater does accumulate, and I've noticed that's a really big issue for a lot of people who are living here, because when the floodwaters accumulate, there really is no way to get rid of them. And that causes for a lot of traffic problems, and just for people who are walking down the streets, it causes for a lot of mess, which is one of the biggest issues I feel like we can tackle. But in terms of streets, as an upcoming driver, I've noticed a lot of things that are just problems for both the drivers and pedestrians alike. There is a lot of concern surrounding pedestrian safety. There's a lot of disenforcement of speed limits. And through Nextdoor, I've also monitored a lot of the issues that people have been bringing up, such as reckless drivers and a lot of accidents that happen here with Highway 17 and Highway 9 coming into the Additionally, with the beach traffic, there's a lot of ways that people have suggested that we can solve this problem, but that's one of the biggest problems I feel like for our community, because that's an easy route for people to travel through. And I feel like that causes a big impediment just for our residents. So these are just a few of the issues that I want to tackle. And of course, as a youth and upcoming driver who has seen a lot of these issues, I believe I can bring my own unique perspective to the commission. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So our second applicant is McCoy Butch-Tyner.
Hi, good evening, council members. I want to apply to the Better Streets Commission because I want more experience in city government, and I'm also on the youth commission, and I think it's awesome, but it's somewhat limited because we only meet once a month, and then this will provide another opportunity for me to be involved with the community. I've also been driving for some time on this road, and I also walk with my dad and my dog a lot on Highway 9 and through the city, and I just noticed there's a lack of sidewalk along Highway 9, and then there's just drivers that are coming up way above the speed limit, and that's just also really dangerous. And I noticed that on Highway 9 there was like a sidewalk and then a crosswalk that got approved and created, and that was a really great idea. And yeah, I think that this will be a great opportunity for me, and I really look forward to being on this youth commission, or on this commission, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, now I'd like to ask if any members of the council would like to make a comment before we call for a vote. No? Okay, so what Andrea did is she has prepared ballots for each council member. These ballots will be tabulated by our city attorney.
You may want to mark,
sorry.
you may want to mark it, just cross it out, mark your own name on it.
Okay.
Just put your own name, right?
I
That's
just
what
saw
I did,
that.
yeah. That way I won't be voting twice or three times, I
Okay,
guess.
so these ballots will be tabulated by our city attorney, Sergio Rudin, and our city manager, and then we will announce the results.
It's a secret ballot.
This will make reporting the results easy.
Sergio, how's your math?
Pretty good. We have 5 votes for Arushi Saxena.
Okay, congratulations, Arushi. So I want to thank both McCoy and Arushi. I want you to know that you serve as good examples for coming forward to become members of the Better Streets Commission, and we look forward to working with you. Thank you so much. So now let's move to Site and Architecture Commission appointments. The council will have 2 applications to fill 2 vacancies for the full 2-year term. Our applicants are currently serving on the Site and Architecture Commission, and both applicants want to serve for another 2 terms. First, let me call the first applicant, who is Heather Harrington.
Hi, I've served now, this would be 6 years, I guess almost 6 years on site and architecture. I've seen the city kind of go through a lot of changes. It's been a pleasure to serve the city and try to keep things consistent with the design guidelines. It sounds like we're going to have some upcoming changes with the new laws that have passed, and we'll see if our commission gets wiped out. But I'd love to continue to serve. I'm a design professional, so I bring that to the table with reading plans and interpreting what is presented to the city. Thank you for your consideration.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you for serving before. Thanks.
Our second applicant is Steve White.
Commissioners, I'm Stephen White. I would appreciate your support for another 2 years on the commission. It's been a joy to serve on the commission. I've been a real estate lawyer for 26, 27 years now. Done a lot of construction law, seen a lot of projects go sour. I know when a bad project's in front of me, and I hope that I can avoid that in the city by renewing a term. Thank you.
So much.
Thank you.
Okay, so are there any questions or comments from the council? It's your turn. Okay, so may I please have a motion to appoint two of the vacancies of the Site and Architecture Commission?
So moved.
Okay, I've got a motion by Councilmember Luthold and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Lawler.
Old technology.
Okay, you should be able to vote. Councilmember Elahi,
Yes.
Councilmember Labouvet,
Yes.
Councilmember Luthold,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lawler, and Mayor Turner.
Yes.
Okay, that's 5-0.
Okay. So Steve and Heather, your service to Site and Architecture have been recognized, and we thank you for your efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the council will now consider two applications for appointment to fill one vacancy, a one-year term for Site and Architecture. And we would also like to hear from each applicant. Our first applicant is Susanna Craig.
Hey everyone, my name is Susanna Craig. I've had the pleasure of living in Monte Sereno for 17 years. And I am applying for this position because I know how the council is open for transparency, and I'd like to be part of that transparency and helping Monte Sereno reach its goals. I'm actually applying for the unexpired term for December 31st, 2020. I have experience, about 20 years of experience in both private and regulated businesses. I've taken companies public. I am very good at building collaboration and making sure that we listen to people. But more importantly, I want to make sure that I can help the city continue its goals. And I'm just going to read this because I thought this was really important in considering the REACH codes that we're talking about. Goal number 1 is harmony and balance of development. I want to make sure that Monte Sereno stays beautiful and that we follow our rules that we've set up, to preserve and protect the environment that's so important in Monte Sereno. I want to make sure that I help out in that way too. And I also want to make sure of goal number 3 of preservation of natural topography, integrity of the creeks and streams, which I think is so important. My kids have enjoyed that. And then finally, to maintain the high level of neighborhood character and pride, which I'm very proud of to be part of Monte Sereno. Really look forward to helping out in the commission. We want to go ahead and also maintain the existing suburban and semi-rural character. So, we do have a nice mix of that, and I'd like to go ahead and continue. And finally, I want to encourage energy conserving practices for the maintenance of existing and new structures, and that leads to the new REACH code. I want to make sure that our citizens are heard and we have full transparency, and that we don't implement and that we don't advocate our personal judgment, but that we listen. Thank you.
Thank you. So our next candidate is Brian Mikachuk.
Hi, my name is Brian Mikachuk. I would like to apply to be on Site and Architecture. I've lived here since 1997, and I became a U.S. citizen on the 22nd of October. So I can now participate in our local government, and I would like to do that by a position on Site and Architecture. I believe that the issue that just came up, the movement from subjective standards to objective standards is going to be very important to our city and for site and architecture to make sure that we move in the appropriate direction, however that may be. I'm very proud of our city and, in fact, have taken, it's called Leadership Los Gatos, which is a course that's over 8 months, and it's once a month. And you go through the Brown Act and other things so that you're prepared to be in local government on the commissions. So I've done that in Los Gatos, and I would be proud to serve on site and architecture. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank both of you for volunteering for site and architecture. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to have a paper ballot. So Brian, are you nervous?
Have you registered to vote yet?
Yes, I have.
All right, good. Good.
And I have my U.S. passport.
All right, you're all set. You have the small one also, the little card?
All right, I will report the votes. We have 4 votes in favor of Brian Mekachuk. Those votes were Mayor Pro Tem Lawler, Councilmember Luthold, Mayor Turner, and Councilmember Dan LaBouvet.
Okay. Congratulations. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's now move to the next item on the agenda, which is unfinished business. We have the REACH code.
Can I escape for a minute?
So,
Thank you.
oh, you want to go right?
Yes, please.
Yes, okay, so we'll take a 2-minute break. Okay, so are we all here? Can we start?
Yep.
Or continue? Okay, so let me go through some procedural items because we're going to have a public hearing. So staff will present a briefing on this item, and then the council will be given the opportunity to ask questions and get staff to respond. Then I will call on any persons who wish to speak, and you will have 3 minutes each. And then the council may ask questions or request clarification from the speakers. Then I will close the hearing from the public, and we will take the discussion to the council. And at that point, no comments will be permitted from the audience. But you can raise your hand, so maybe we'll permit you. So anyway, Rob, can we have a staff report, please?
Sure. I'm sorry, before we start, just to be clear, this is not a public hearing.
Oh, it's not?
No, it's not a public hearing. This is just a new business item to get input from the council because we're moving forward with the building code at the next meeting.
Okay, so it's not a public hearing.
Okay, good evening, Mayor Turner and council. So on August 6th, council meeting, staff brought to you the concept of REACH codes for the city of Montserrat. We had John Supp here from Silicon Valley Clean Energy at the meeting to do a presentation, to go over what the REACH codes are, how they affect the energy code, as well as discuss what other cities are doing and have adopted. At that meeting, staff asked council for clear direction on how to proceed, and council directed staff to issue the letter of intent to SVCE, expressing interest but with no commitment. Also apply for the $10,000 grant that SVCE was offering. Conduct community outreach, gather input and comments from the community, and include a cost analysis. And once all that was completed, they would like for us to tailor or customize a reach code for Montecito, if there was public interest in it. So staff did the following. We sent out a survey designed to collect data on residents' interest in solar photovoltaics, electric vehicles, electric vehicle charging, as well as storage batteries. The results of the survey, we have them up here. There was 52 residents surveyed. 76% of the residents have or desired to have electric vehicles. Currently, 12% of the vehicles in Montecito, of the people surveyed, are electric vehicles. 51% of residents have or want to have solar panels, and 20% have or want to have batteries. Most residents are okay with their indoor air quality. 72% don't want to have induction cooktops. And 100% of the residents that completed the survey agreed or would want to be surveyed again. So that was the results of the survey. In addition, staff also held an informational reach code meeting on September 18th, in which 17 residents attended to learn more about the reach codes. SVCE also put on a presentation, and then there was an opportunity to do a Q&A at the end where numerous people asked questions, and we did our best to answer those questions. Attached in the staff report is also statewide cost-benefit analysis. In addition to that, staff also prepared some cost analysis as far as what it would take to do certain prescriptive measures in new construction and certain measures as retrofits. So that's included in the report as well. So based on all the feedback from the residents, staff felt that a performance-based reach code would probably not work for Montecito. When we say performance-based, we mean, some cities are adopting to go over Title 24 by 15, 20%, 10%. Cities have done different things. So we felt that was not the right fit for Montecito based on the feedback. So what we decided, there was interest, though, in doing some prescriptive measures that would not affect the use of natural gas in the home. So you would just be doing additional prescriptive measures. So what we did is we came up with a couple of different options. So I'm going to go over those options. Option one, this would be the furthest reach. It'd be to require a dedicated 240-volt, 30-amp circuit with a receptacle adjacent to the water heater, along with a 3/4-inch condensate line terminating to a code-compliant location, and that's for the future of a heat pump water heater. The second thing would be to require a 240-volt, 30-amp circuit. Let me go back on that first one, just so you guys know as well. The code's already going to require you to put a 20-amp circuit with a number 10 wire as part of the standard code that's going to be in effect in the 2019 code. So this is just taking it to a 30 amp and adding a 3/4-inch condensate line to go a little bit further than what the code already is going to require. Require a 30 amp dedicated circuit next to the clothes dryer, which on this one, 99, I'd say, even, I don't want to say 100%, but about 99% of homes have an electric dryer outlet near their dryer. I've yet to see one where they just do gas only. There's always going to be a gas or electric option, so that's pretty much done on all new homes already currently. The other thing would be to require a 240-volt, 50-amp circuit near the kitchen cooktop, and that's for the future of induction cooking. And then 2 dedicated plug-and-play level 2 EV circuits, one inside the garage and then one on the exterior of the home. And then lastly, a battery storage option. So that would be option 1. Option 2 is the same as option 1 for the first 4 bullet points, except on the last one for the dedicated level 2 circuit, it just gives you an option if you want to do it inside the home or outside the home. And then there would be no battery storage on that one for option 2. It's just, we took the battery storage off. And then finally, option 3 is just to adopt the 2019 Cal Green and Energy Code, which we're bringing to you guys in the next council meeting, as is with no reach. So with that, staff would just like to have direction on which way to proceed and which option you guys would want to go with.
Okay. So, are there any questions from council?
I've got a couple, if I may. First of all, you mentioned the 30 amp let's see, no, sorry, 50 amp next to the cooktop. Traditionally, if people were going to have a oven, would they have a 50 amp already planned for that spot if they were looking at an electric oven? And would this be separate from any wiring you'd need to run for an electric oven?
They would. It just depends on what, I'm not sure if they're out there, if there's induction cooktop combos like they have for, if you see like, the Thermadors or the Vikings now where they have a dual source where they have electric oven and then a gas cooktop. I'm not sure if they have a option where they have induction cooktop or an electric oven yet, but typically what we've seen out there is induction cooktops. So it'd be a separate 50 amp circuit. If they wanted an electric oven as well, it'd be a 50 amp circuit for the induction cooktop and then a 50 amp for the oven.
Okay, so it would be,
There may be some technology coming out. I don't know, John, do you know of any? No, so you would have to.
okay, so it would be a second one, okay. And there was a second question there. And so just to clarify, on option one, you're looking at the EV circuit inside the garage and one outside the garage?
Yeah.
That's two separate circuits. What are we looking at for the cost to add these electric circuits?
So
in
I
option
did
one?
let me go through my report here. So I did a breakdown over here on staff report of option one. Did I not include the,
Yes, it's in there.
Okay, it looks like.
for the extra circuits, yeah, for the,
1,500
yeah,
for
there we
EV
go,
chargers.
1,500. So that would be if you did it pre-wired it new. I mean, you're literally adding a breaker and then you're running the pre-wire to the locations. So we figured it as 1,500. I mean, these are all estimates, right? I mean, you're going to get electricians and that come in all different ranges, but that would be an average. And then the cost to retrofit in later, we are figuring in if you have to upgrade your panel. It just depends what size panel you have and if it calculates out.
Okay.
I have a question. On option one,
Uh-huh.
battery storage, since panels are going to be required on all new builds, isn't battery storage part of that process?
No.
It's not.
No, completely separate.
Question. I see you didn't give us a no gas option at all.
Yeah, because-
This is, I mean, because this means that people will also have a gas top or something else. It's easier, most people want gas. But what's the cost? I mean, Montesino houses, I mean, the driveways are fairly long, and do you know what the estimated cost is for putting a gas line from the street or wherever it's running to your house? How much does it cost per foot? Does anybody have any idea on that? I mean, are we spending, $4,000 or $5,000 just getting a gas line in? Whereas just doing,
I would say at least that, but I mean, it could be more depending on the length, the size, right? It all depends on the BTU demand. If you're going to go 2 inch, 1.5 inch, there's so many different variables of that. I mean, we could work out a couple different cost estimates of that. I could do that. I didn't do that for this. It definitely can be done. It would have to be based on, a few different options like, 1.5 pipe, 2 inch pipe,
yeah, because I mean, if you're spending,
length.
I mean, if you take option two, you're only spending $3,200, and if you go a step further and say, yeah, don't bring any gas into the house, they'll save $10,000 or $5,000 or some number that'll make up for that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's worth considering to just, like San Jose's gone no gas, Morgan Hill's gone no gas, Mountain View, I believe, has done the same. And we're only talking about new houses, so it does not affect any existing homes. It only affects the new development, but then you eliminate the entire risks that comes in with gas pipes coming into your house and, the leakages on the streets and the fires that might result. So I'm wondering if that's worth looking at.
Yeah, I agree completely. The only reason we didn't look at it is we felt with the feedback we got that people really liked their gas and wanted gas, and that was not an option to take that away. So I didn't look at that option just because I didn't think there was a palette out there for that for Montesino. But if you'd like me to look at that option, we can definitely do more. I mean, that would have been the ideal. That's kind of what the REACH codes and other cities are doing. The reason we didn't go that far with the REACH is because we just didn't feel it was going to.
Well, people are here, let's hear what they have to say
Okay,
today.
yeah, perfect.
I have one more question. If you don't mind. Are automatic gas shut-off valves required by our city code?
No. Milpitas there. But we haven't adopted
that
that.
something
That would be we would have to amend the code and adopt that separately. It's not in the code.
Anything else? No? Okay, so now I'm going to open up the questions for comments from the audience. So our first one is Philippa Alves. Philippa?
Thank you. I did it again. Thank you for increasing the sound level. I appreciate that. I spoke about this before, and I am still opposed to this. I think there are not enough controls indicated in the current presentation to be sure that increases in price won't go up eventually over the amount that we would anticipate for this service. And there aren't enough controls to be effective unless every household is brought up to standards. And the plan, of course, was to eliminate the carbon footprint of the gas service as well as safety to citizens. But this isn't very effective when you only have a small number of new housing, which falls under the requirements, and you have massive housing that doesn't fall under it. So you have a real imbalance here, and there's nothing in this to level it out so that it's effective for new housing as well as older housing. I do think that eventually older housing will be required to bring this up, and that's a real handicap for older buildings.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Burton Craig.
Thank you, Council. Burton Craig. And 5 years ago, when I was on the council and I was representing the city at the Cities Association, we had a presentation from Marin County Clean Energy that talked about how communities can band together and create their own utility companies. And what sounded like a pipe dream all those years ago, through amazing hard work from 12 of the 15 cities in Santa Clara County, brought the Silicon Valley Clean Energy Organization into being. Our city contributed a couple of $100,000. Some other cities contributed up to 15 or 16 million. And we had a staged rollout that was going to take over 3 years. But due to the hard work of all of the members of the Silicon Valley Clean Energy Organization, we were able to complete that rollout in less than a year. And even though we were talking about a 3-year payback of all of the monies that were loaned to the cities, that payback occurred in less than 18 months. And I don't think you've seen any government organization ever be ahead of the schedule, ahead of the budget, and to be able to roll out a product that has made an impact on our community and our county as the Silicon Valley Clean Energy Group. With the two products that they offer, both of them offering carbon-free electricity, one of them giving you 100% renewable energy, the other one giving you 50% energy, this has laid the groundwork for us to be able to bring future programs out like the REACH codes. And the way that we can make a huge impact immediately is by really trying to work with people to adopt electrical appliances. And it's going to take time. A lot of people still feel that gas is better for cooking. A lot of people feel that gas heaters are toastier for their home. A lot of people don't think that a electric water heater is going to heat as well as an Instahot, or will it heat as well as a gas heater. Well, the technologies are changing, and what is really important is for us to start today, because even though we're only affecting a small number of new homes that are being built, this is going to lay the groundwork for the future. I would also like to encourage you to maybe take a look a little bit further and to run stubbing to any bathroom and any other type of sink that is put into the house, because this would then give you the ability to put electric Insta-hot heaters all around the house, so that some of the problems that people have with large houses and with electric water heaters would be mitigated by having multiple electrical water heaters throughout the house. Thank you very much.
Susanna Craig.
So as we know, the council is all about transparency. And so I want to be transparent with something that was brought to my attention in regards to emails that were sent to various citizens by Mayor Rowena Turner, where I believe the intent of the council is to provide even, non-opinionated ideas to the citizens, and not to try to sway by making false statements, inaccurate representations, and putting fear. It's come to my attention that Mayor Turner sent an email to a few people that basically said, hey, there's a new change in the building code in Montecito. Tell me what you think. And then she sent the links of her husband, Ed Turner, Philippa Alvis, and of Kathy Smith, where it says, I just noted that there's a site meeting next Wednesday to talk about not allowing gas appliances, but only electric forward. I am not sure if anyone knows about this, so check this link. And then Philippa's like, alert, alert, alert. And then Ed is, Silicon Valley clean energy people have paid the city $10,000 to conduct a study, implying that somehow that they were buying the participation of Montecito, which is ridiculous. That money was given so that there's an actual research done. Bullshit. Thank you. And this is the type of person that we're dealing with. And then in addition to that, here's where the fear comes in. Silicon Valley Clean Energy is a monopoly. They're giving all the cities $10,000 to have free reign. They can do a survey, get people's addresses, and yet the slide does not tell us much. Again, implying that they're just throwing $10,000 and that the city council, which is you, Rowena, will not use it properly. And then it goes on to say, for example, Brian Mekachek has an all-electric house with a 3-car garage with charging units, and he pays $280 extra monthly in penalty fees because he is using too much electricity, yet he's an advocate. Like, look at this guy. He's all about electricity. He's paying more, and even though he's paying more, he's an advocate, right? Again, not transparent, including fear. And then, finally, now remember, you're part of the government, you're part of the city council, and then you say, we should keep the government from mandating how we live, and that they do not have the ability to tell us to pick gas and electric. Anyway, I just wanted to say that playing that big brother type of fear to your residents is shameful. Thank you.
I feel like I have to respond. I think everything you said is fake news.
Well, it's right here.
Okay. So our next speaker is...
Actually, I'm concerned about the matter she's brought up. I mean, if those kind of emails are being sent by you, I'm really concerned, because they're one-sided, and you're trying to incite people on one side of the issue without presenting the other side. I'm also concerned if your husband is playing a role in it, and the comment he made while she was speaking, you should have asked him to let the speaker speak and not be rude when a person is at the podium.
I'll apologize for stating the fact there. Okay.
Well, no, it's her role to tell you that it's not appropriate.
Neither were your,
I'm sorry?
neither were your emails and your next door posts.
we can talk about those.
Okay, so next is Rob Wildwood.
Members of the council, I appreciate the opportunity to talk. I think the approach that was just mentioned here by Rob is a good approach. I think that building code should move us forward in the future, but also not ignore reality. The reality is that we have a public grid that is overtaxed already, antiquated equipment, and a provider that's insolvent. So, you know, what the future holds for us in the way of normal electric service is in question. We just, I don't know if you had your power turned out, but mine was down for 4 days live up in the mountains, and a little inconvenient for people who didn't have or prepared for that. I think that you know, the new Title 24 codes that California is mandating are good. They move us more towards energy efficiency. That's our biggest bang for the buck. And that having a hodgepodge of municipal building codes all over the valley just makes it even more expensive, because contractors then have to understand what each little, you know, what each enclave is doing to be able to you know, comply with those things. And, you know, I believe that with the current condition of our grid and the past performance of PG&E, we're going to see huge rate increases. And if you go all electric, it's going to be a penalty on those people that try to move in here and build. So I have done a lot of math. I think I sent everybody here in the council a presentation about this. If anybody else would like a copy, I have some of those. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we'll have Barry Cinnamon.
Hi, thanks for time to talk about something that's been passionate to me for 40 years. Some people think I'm an expert in building electrification. I just kind of, I'm in the solar industry, been doing that for a long time. Founded a company called Akina Solar, which was in Los Gatos for many years, sold that, and then started up a company called Cinnamon Energy Systems. So basically what we do is we install solar and battery storage in Silicon Valley. I think, and I also live in an old house in San Jose. When I moved in, I completely converted it to all electric, including the HVAC, the hot water, the induction cooktop, which there's a lot of misinformation about that. And I can say without a doubt that it's more comfortable and it's way more affordable, even on a retrofit basis. With regards to the induction cooktop, a friend of mine made the point, and it's absolutely true, that the only people who don't like induction cooktops are the ones who have never used one. So it's just test it out for yourself. I think I took a look at this presentation that was put together, and I've been crunching these energy numbers and economics numbers for a long, long time. And there's a couple of things that are just missing in this presentation that are really important. The first one is that we're not talking about a regular electric heating system like, you know, the coils that you have, or hot water heating system that would be passed through InstaHot. We're talking about something that uses a heat pump. So all the new equipment uses heat pumps. They're 3 times more efficient than ordinary electric, which means when you look at this presentation, they're exactly the same on an efficiency basis as natural gas. The second thing to remember is we're talking about new buildings that are mandated to have solar. If you have solar, you're not paying 40 cents a kilowatt hour. Amortized, it's around 7 or 8 cents. So when you look at the math on those two facts, changing those two facts, the coefficient of performance and the cost of solar electricity, it ends up being much less expensive than natural gas. And keep in mind, PG&E, don't forget the G in PG&E. They want to sell you gas. And the prices of gas are going to go up, the prices of electricity go up. When you put in a solar or storage system, you're locked in. So that makes a huge, huge difference. I think it's really important as far as the options that Rob put together, really important to prepare for this new technology. When your hot water heater starts leaking, you got that gas hot water heater, there's water on the floor in your garage, you're going to call up a plumber and they're going to put in a new gas hot water heater because they're not electricians and they don't have the bandwidth or the time, or you don't have 2 months to find an electrician. If your gas furnace goes, you have to replace it with another gas furnace, not a heat pump, because it takes a little while to get those wired in. So the preparation is really important. Just in conclusion, to wrap up, electrification, without a doubt, is cheaper than natural gas. I'm living it. Our customers are living it. It's much cleaner. It's zero carbon, clearly much safer. And I think it would benefit people going forward to make preparations for that. And that's what these options provide. Thank you.
Thank you.
So much. Kate Mikachuk.
Hi, my name is Kate Mekachuk, and I'm the current secretary of the Monte Sereno Youth Commission and have been a resident of Monte Sereno for my whole life. Many people think that we cannot change the world because we are only working within our local community. I strongly disagree. I think that we can change the world. We can create an impact that lasts a lifetime, and we can do it right now. The residents of Monte Sereno entrusted each of you with the power to enact a change that can better our community. They voted for you because they believe that you love and care for our community as much as they do. They voted for you because they know that you will create policy not to benefit yourself, but to benefit the community. The REACH codes encourage construction of new buildings that are safer, healthier, and emission-free. By doing nothing, you allow for more buildings to be built that will pollute our community's environment, subsequently the world's, for decades to come. Sure, the REACH codes will not affect you or most of the residents today, but they will affect all the children in our community. The residents that voted for you to become city council members believe that you will help make Monte Sereno the best that it can be, not only for them, but for their children too. Would it be right to deny the children of Monte Sereno a better planet because you believe that these codes do not affect you? Would it be the best for our community that we love and cherish to turn a blind eye to an international problem that affects every living thing on the planet? Would you be the person that the residents voted for if you didn't do everything in your power to make our community a better place? You, council members, have the opportunity to change our community for the better, the opportunity to make this world a better place for you, for your voters, for your children, and for their grandchildren. The REACH codes do matter because without environmentally conscious codes, we do more harm than good for Monte Sereno. You have the power to change that. You are the select few that were elected into office to create a better world for tomorrow. The question is, will you do it? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Our next speaker is Ed Turner.
I think the most fundamental problem with these codes is that they're being mandated. I think the issue is that Monte Sereno residents are smart enough, they are astute enough to decide for themselves what kind of appliances they want to have in their homes. And I don't think they need the heavy hand of government to push them in one direction or another. There are many legitimate reasons why someone might want to use gas. And these REACH codes would penalize those people, forcing them to spend thousands of dollars unnecessarily just to exercise what ought to be their choice. So that's my fundamental issue. I have a few others as well. I think that we are ostensibly doing this to reduce emissions. And I think whether that actually works is arguable. I noticed from the letters that were sent that other engineers argued that these REACH codes would actually increase emissions. And I'd like to kind of explain why that happens. Electricity is a fungible commodity. It's like a big pool. It gets poured into the grid from a number of sources, and then it gets taken out as it's needed. And using incremental electricity is only emission-free if that electricity is produced by something that's emission-free, like solar or water or wind. PG&E will tell you that only about 25% of their electricity comes from solar and wind now. 42% comes from natural gas. So as you draw incremental electricity from that pool, 42% of it's produced by gas. Gas is 3 times less efficient. It takes 3 times more gas to produce the energy in your home, at your water heater, or at your cooktop, than it does just to burn the gas there directly. So you don't end up saving anything there. It's also, I disagree with some of the things that you said, Barry. Now, I have solar. Aquino put it in. I've had it for years. And we pay about 29 cents a kilowatt hour, okay? And if you look at BTU for BTU basis, electricity, and prices can change, but electricity right now is about 8 times more expensive than gas. So that's got to be an issue for people, okay? And the other piece of this is that we do have an antiquated grid, and the more load we put on that, the more strain it is. And we actually increase the potential for fires. The way that works is that as you put more electricity down these high voltage lines, that causes the lines to heat up. They expand, they sag, the wind blows, they touch, they spark, and because we no longer clean out the underbrush beneath them, they start fires. So you could end up increasing the probability of fires here. So thank you very much.
Okay, next, Skip Pearson, and he's our last speaker for tonight.
Skip Pearson, Becky Lane. I'm going to read this because it'll be very short, and if I speak without it, I tend to go on and on. Rob, I think I'm way behind the city, way behind the council. In Rob's presentation, he showed how much far along you are in your decision about supporting all electricity. But regardless, my main concern was I have some loved ones that live by themselves, and during all the blackouts, what are they supposed to do if they just have electricity? They have no heat, they have no hot water. Anyway, so I'll read my spiel. California wants us to seriously take seriously the implementation of REACH codes to end, by mandate, fossil fuels and rely solely on wind, solar, and hydroelectric power. I don't believe we should commit to REACH codes until California seriously acts to deliver safe, dependable, and reasonably priced power. Californians can no longer depend upon electrical power. We saw that in all the fires we've just had, and that's supposed to be only the beginning of all the blackouts. Arbitrary power blackouts are the new norm to counter fires. And wildfires, which released 45 million metric tons of carbon dioxide into the air in California in 2018, which is 9 times more than the greenhouse gas emissions that California was able to reduce our total greenhouse gas emissions. It was 9 times more than what California reduced their emissions in 2018. California cannot effectively store fluctuating wind and solar power. California even pays Arizona and Nevada to pays Nevada and Arizona to take California's excess electricity to avoid overloading its power lines and creating more blackouts. California's dams can store hydropower, but in the last 40 years, no significant dam has been built in California, while California's population has gone from 30 to 40 million in the last 40 years. Therefore, I feel that until California can seriously assure us that they can keep the lights on at a reasonable cost and in a safe manner, we need the dependability of gas to heat our homes. And I lastly want to ask our new city attorney, Is there some conflict of interest in one of our council members being on the board of Silicon Valley Power?
I mean, I'd have to look into that, and first of all, I advise the city council. I don't advise members of the public, so that's generally my role.
Not agreeing to.
I do want to share some information with you. The Silicon Valley Energy is an independent board, but this city council nominates a representative to that board. So when I'm on that board, I'm representing the city of Montecito. The other 12 members are representing their own city council. It's a nonprofit board. We don't get paid for it.
Okay. Oh, we have one more, or two more. The next one is Dashel Leeds.
Hello, Mayor and City Council. My name is Dashel Leeds. I'm a conservation assistant for the Sierra Club Loma Prieta chapter. We strongly support the REACH codes, and we even support going further than staff's recommendation to consider all electric. We believe that this should at least be an option that is studied and considered so that the facts are made available for the public. I'd like to address some of the issues that were brought up today. First is fires. These fires are inextricably linked to climate change. Climate change is accelerating these wildfires and making them worse. 2018 was the largest and deadliest wildfire season in California's history, and conditions will continue to get worse unless we reduce our emissions. Also, in terms of resiliency, gas appliances require electric starters. So if you do not have power, your new gas appliances that you build will not function. So the resiliency is sort of a false choice, especially when you look at what electric has to offer, and especially with option one with battery technology. That's real resiliency. And especially when it comes to earthquakes, if we don't have gas lines, our fire and explosion risk from earthquakes goes way down. And with all electric homes, with the potential for microgrid technology with batteries, we could have resilient communities powered by solar and battery technology that are able to operate completely off-grid. I think this is the way that communities are moving in the future. And by having pre-wiring in our homes in option 1 and 2, we really lay the groundwork for improving community resiliency in the future. I'd like to address cost as well. A big city that studied this was San Jose, and they looked at cost and they said, you know what, gas rates are gonna go up much faster in the future than electric rates. Both PG&E and SoCal Gas are projecting massive rate increases for gas. The reason being is that across California, we are dropping natural gas as a fuel source, and we have these existing lines that are gonna get more and more expensive to maintain. These are gonna become stranded assets that we will have to deal with. So let's not build more stranded assets. And I'd like to, in my final 40 seconds, I'd like to talk about choice. And I think, especially with pre-wiring a new home, this really gives people choice. So when you're looking at purchasing a new home that's pre-wired, you can choose to put in an electric appliance. But if there's only gas there, you are barred. You are stuck with gas. You are stuck with the stranded asset. And I also think that our youth should have the choice and the option to live in a planet that's habitable. And I think I really want to bring it back to this, is that this is our time to really take steps to ensure, in small part, our survival as a species. And I really think that we should be looking as REACH codes to move further to improve community stability. Thank you.
Brian Mikachuk.
Hi. I would like to advocate option 1, which is the battery storage. I just put in battery storage in my own home on October the 26th. And I think that, as some of the speakers said, we need to build resiliency and we need to have some storage for our electricity. I would like to see stationary storage at what's called in front of the meter, and having Silicon Valley Clean Energy do that. And I would actually promoting them to do a pilot, and I'd like them to do a pilot for Monte Sereno, but it would be extremely difficult to ask for a pilot if we didn't support the REACH codes. And then also there's battery storage behind the meter, which I now have. In any event, I would ask you to support option 1. Thank you.
So I guess that's it for our public. So Andrea and I put together all the letters that we have received from citizens, and I'd like to read them, please. The first one is from Brian Mikachuk. We received it August the 6th. He says, City Council, show leadership in the move towards environment sustainability by including the REACH codes when adopting the new building codes effective January 1st. PG&E, Robert Kenny. PG&E is proud to provide electric to Monte Sereno. We look forward to your accomplishing your policy goals. The next one is Carol Yakushiji. Every effort should be made to protect the environment. I support the purpose and the goals of the REACH code. Next one is Lon Allen. With all respect, I'm against making it more difficult and more expensive to build and remodel in Monte Sereno. The next one is Sylvia Moore. It seems to me it will not be green unless California goes solar, wind, and nuclear. Only, and each has its challenges. For that reason, I vote against instituting the REACH code. Robert Lipp, I strongly recommend a complete EIR from a competent independent source. In fact, I think it would be irresponsible to do less than you would require from a major development before enacting such draconian regulations. Lee and Vesta Walker, we do not support the Monte Sereno Council in any efforts to speak in our behalf. Voting and the democratic process is mandatory with decision-making on this topic due to the lives-changing and potentially disruptive consequences of its implementation. Michael and Shirley Diadio, if you wish to increase the use of clean energy, then you may consider providing additional tax incentive for those implementing new solar generation. Such an approach would benefit your citizens rather than a monopolistic utility. Jan and Tom Gleason, the REACH code may make nice, feel-good presentations and take surveys, but this amounts do nothing more than talk and bookkeeping exercises. They do nothing to add to clean energy production. Please do not add this worthless regulation to the Monte Sereno building codes. Philippa and Jack Elvis, if Monte Sereno City Council sincerely wishes to help implement the reduction of the carbon footprint in our community as soon as possible, there are better ways to do it. Possible tax reductions for those who comply with building and architectural recommendations for Monte Sereno would be a welcome one. I'm sure that this community, with so many able, educated, and creative citizens with such skills, as well as members of the City Council themselves, could propose a better solution than SVCE is offering. For these reasons, among others, we urge you to listen to the proposal, but do not take action on it. Diane Stillinger, we strive to conserve every way possible. However, taking the choice of gas for future residents of Monte Sereno based on a handful of people voting is absurd. Please do not make this choice without the votes of the town. Srini Madala, I would have to have the freedom and flexibility. I would like to have the freedom and flexibility to pick the right degree of clean energy use I am comfortable with and the mix of the available options. Please do not make new constructions any more difficult and cumbersome than what it is. Kip Pearson, I urge our City Council to not support REACH code without reliable and affordable alternatives. Ben Granholm, PG&E's public safety power shutoff could affect 2.4 million electricity users. Vulnerable citizens, such as people on dialysis or simply the many individuals using electric-powered wheelchairs, can use propane energy for reliable power. Joanne and James Trembath, it is an outrageous and overreaching proposal. Where does it end? Mike Wallabut, the elimination of natural gas would have many unintended consequences, not only for future residents, but the environment as well. Michelle DeCanio. I think it's premature to mandate these codes to homeowners, even if it only applies to new construction or major rebuilds. I would be more comfortable with a strong recommendation falling short of a mandate. So that's what I have. So now let me take any questions from the council, if you have any comments.
I have some comments. You want me to go first?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank everyone for their input on this issue. Probably the most amount of citizen feedback I've seen since I've been on the council, so a very important issue. So in order to sort of get grounded, I always like to look for some data and take a top-down approach to how to think about this and maybe Pareto it. Because what is our ultimate goal? We're trying to reduce and eliminate greenhouse gas emissions. And so I took a look at the latest report from the California Air Resource Board, greenhouse gas emissions, and they do Pareto it, and they kind of break greenhouse gases into sectors. And the first sector, the largest sector, is transportation at 40%. And so if we just take a look at what the trends are in each of these sectors, in 2017's emissions were slightly down compared to previous 3 years. Regulations, improved fuel efficiency, higher market penetration of zero-emission vehicles, and then as the staff report noted, 31% increase in Santa Clara County drive down emissions. I think that's a very good trend. On the other hand, population growth, lower fuel prices, more consumer and economic activity, and higher overall employment actually drive this parameter in the other direction. And so that's why this one's only slightly down in previous 3 years. But this is by far the biggest category, and if we're going to affect change, you want to try to chip away at the largest category. The next one is industrial at 21%, only a slight decrease in the past few years. So this is also a major factor, yet, if we want to affect change, we need to kind of chip away at the 21%, over something lesser. Electricity, this was a big one, 15%. So in 2017, it was a 9% drop due to increase in renewable energy versus 2016, in part due to California Renewable Portfolio Standard and cap and trade. So these are good programs, and it's driving electricity towards clean energy. In 2017, 52% of California's energy came from clean energy. We need to support clean energy. This is probably the biggest actionable item other than driving an EV-type vehicle is to continue to support clean energy. Certainly Silicon Valley Clean Energy can increase demand by purchasing clean energy sources, but the REACH codes, I don't think that to me, it should not be part of their mandate to increase energy usage overall. They should be increasing, their biggest bang for buck would be to focus on driving demand for pure clean energy and getting this 52% number to 100%. Agriculture, surprisingly, is an 8% contributor. And then after agriculture comes residential. So what are the uses in residential? It's mostly variable by weather, conditions needed for heating, and population growth. And so residential housing has grown steadily from 12.2 million units to 2000 to 14.1 million units in 2017. And so this is why residential is also basically flat. So what can we do to affect change here? Well, we can try to support some low growth initiatives, but California's growing, and so it's tough to fight the demographics. After that, commercial, 4%. Refrigerants, so we all have refrigerants. We enjoy cold things to drink and eat and so forth. 5%, it's a comparable number to residential. And then waste is 2%. So for me, California building standards are updated on a 3-year cycle. I don't feel like there's any compelling advantage to get ahead of the California requirements. In Monte Sereno, there's only 5 to 7 homes built per year, which is negligible in reducing greenhouse gas emissions. I think there's things each of us can do that more effectively addresses this problem. Majority of resident feedback does not want additional mandates. Probably this has been the strongest resident support that I've seen. So I support option 3, to adopt California building codes as is with no reach codes.
Okay, well, I like your report. To your point, the larger sectors rely heavily on fossil fuels, and so I believe that the sectors that have viable alternatives should pursue those viable alternatives. And I also feel that these reach codes are not taking away the choice of gas. In fact, they're certainly supporting the choice of gas and simply building in future flexibility so that you can make those changes in the future if you so desire, as well as improve the value of your home. You may change your mind, or buyers are going to want to come in and potentially have those options. So it's not taking away anybody's gas. You can still, that's my understanding, you can still use gas. This is just simply building in future flexibility that you may want to have. And I think we are in a position where we can adopt policy and take the little steps that we need to take, and there's going to be lots of little steps, but any step we can take towards a cleaner future for our kids, I am in support of. So I support option 1.
Okay. Sean Bucco?
Yeah, I think one thing that I want to underline is that we have really paid attention to the community here. The community made it very clear that they don't want us to either take away gas as an option or penalize gas, which was in one of the Silicon Valley Clean Energy potential codes. And I think that's created a lot of the negative reaction, was this penalty or takeaway. None of the proposals that we're talking about here today have any of those effects. The only thing we're looking at is now, as Mayor Pro Tem Lawler said, adding in flexibility. I've been through this process. My permit is 10 years old. I'm just finishing my long, slow remodel on my house, and I strongly regret not having these codes to guide me to run a few additional wires in the right places at the right time. And I think it is ridiculous to not run those few additional wires. If somebody said don't run gas along with those wires, yeah, we'd be looking at a different conversation. But we're saying get the houses ready, give people the choices. I don't have some of those choices without doing a major retrofit at much higher cost right now. So I'm very supportive of this, and I think the real question comes down to the question of whether we want to push just a little bit farther, requesting the battery storage here, and looking between option 1 and option 2. The battery storage is one step further beyond right now, but as we've just been through the power outages, it's something that is pretty obviously attractive. And so if somebody is building a new home, one of these 7, 8, 9, 10 homes, to be looking at battery storage of some form and getting ahead of that is certainly worth considering. Whether we should mandate that for people when there are going to be newer technologies coming along, that's a question that I'm still considering. People are looking at wiring their electric vehicles into their houses. There's going to be a lot of new options there. So I'm not sure about mandating the additional battery storage, but I'm certainly there for getting the wires in position.
I think this has been a good discussion. I appreciate everything that the citizens of Montecito have said in their letters. I think a lot of those letters were written before any presentation was made. I think they are September 15th letters when the issue first came up on the city agenda. A lot of presentations have been made, and I'm not sure if those letters would read the same way now. They possibly could, because some of the concerns there were that you're going to ban gas completely. That was never considered. I mean, I would recommend it, but the citizens are not ready for that yet, so let's not, I'm willing to look at that we should look at what the citizens want, obviously. The whole scenario about somehow Silicon Valley Clean Energy is some big monster out there trying to take advantage of all of us. I don't know who started that. It's a nonprofit. It's based on the community. The mayor appoints the person who represents the city on that council. There's an alternate, Pro Tem Mayor Liz Lawler is alternate on that council. And we've seen the way the Silicon Valley Clean Energy works. I mean, I've never seen such an efficient agency because they are very well put together. In 2 or 3 years, they have, they supply all the clean energy they supply all the energy to Santa Clara County. If you look at your bill, there'll be 2 sections on it. One will say energy, which is Silicon Valley Clean Energy, and the other is for the service that the PG&E provides. So they're already providing about 98% fossil-free energy. The gas generators are going to be there, but as Silicon Valley Energy understands, and see, this is why it's important to adopt the REACH codes, because they can also plan. They can say, okay, there are so many houses that are hooked up, they'll need electricity, we need to go find the sources, and to make sure that we can service all these houses that are out there. And you have to do this, and this is a message you send, is Montecito going to go back in the dark ages, or are you going to worry about clean energy? Understand that greenhouse gases are a reality. The fires are being caused that's not why we need wires, because of the fires. The fires are being caused because of the extra electricity and the gases that are being consumed. And this is a good way to eliminate it. I would go with Mayor Pro Tem Lawler and say, let's go with option number 1.
Okay, so I guess it's my turn. I don't have a concern about the REACH code per se. What I'm concerned about is government telling us what kind of appliances I need to use in my home. I think Montecito residents are intelligent enough to decide for themselves how they want to heat their homes, how to cook their food. We have a gas generator that we've used for 30 years. It's powered by a Camaro 350, and it's hooked up to a natural gas. I have not experienced any PG&E shutdown for the last 30 years. It just comes on. There are legitimate reasons why people might want to use gas in their homes. Our citizens should not be penalized thousands of dollars to make that choice. If you believe that there's strength in diversity, then believe there's strength in resiliency. If you believe that there's strength in diversity, then believe there is strength and resilience in diversity of energy resources. PG&E shutdown for days at a time is going to be the new normal. Having a gas water heater to bathe and a cooktop for delicious meals can certainly make your home more livable, and not to mention more romantic during blackouts. Admittedly, this is a very complex issue, right? And I don't think this is a one-size-fits-all solution. That's not the right approach. I think our citizens are best able to evaluate the trade-offs and decide for themselves what is right for them. You shouldn't be telling me what to do in my own house. Therefore, I'm going to vote against implementing any form of the REACH code. Thank you.
I just wanted to respond to Rowena. I think you carry on about the people should be able to get their gas. We're not saying don't get your gas. So that issue is not there. If a person wants to have gas, they can have gas. So I'm not sure where that is coming from and why that's being emphasized. Option 1 basically actually gives you the resiliency, because then you now have storage. So if you're going to lose power, you'll have battery storage available right then and there.
I just don't trust somebody telling me you will have all electric, and then down the line, they could say, well, since we have these people with electric, then take off your gas. And that's one of the things that I don't want to do.
No, I appreciate your mistrust, and I guess a lot of people don't trust us either, because politicians shouldn't be trusted too much, I guess. But we're here, and hopefully hopefully we can trust ourselves to do the right thing and do the thing that's helpful to somebody else in the future. And government is always making rules. I mean, in your house, you got carbon monoxide sensors, you got smoke detectors. Government tells you what kind of sheetrock and walls are you going to use. Government tells you what kind of fireproof blankets you need to have. Government tells you what kind of toys you can buy for your kids. So like saying I don't like government to mandate anything doesn't really mean much, because we are living in an area where government is telling us, and it's improving our lives in most of those cases.
I'd like to add to that, particularly with things like water conservation, and we have to have low flow toilets and shower heads. I mean, this is something that is a environmental and community concern for our future, so.
Anything else?
Anything else?
All right, I just wanted to thank the city council and of course the community for all their feedback. So we, based on a majority support for option one with some question about the battery storage, we will move forward with adding that in to the building code for consideration, which will be coming to you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
So are we going to take a vote now?
It was, I tallied the votes.
Consensus, I guess.
So it'll get
Shall we
voted on.
announce it or what?
No, it's going to be voted.
It's just a consensus,
You
right?
basically, you told us what you wanted to do individually.
Yeah, the item was a direction item as to what kind of ordinance to bring back for you guys to consider further.
Okay, thank you.
So the ordinance next time will have all the building codes and this part of, as part of it.
Correct, it's the full 2019 building code, and we will, like I said, based on the fact that a majority, with except the question potentially of the battery, is directing the option one to be added in. We will have that as part of the consideration on the 19th.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next order of business is committee and commission reports. Is there any council member that wishes to speak? I think you wanted to speak.
I would like to, yes, Councilmember Elahi may as well. First of all, the two of us attended the League of Cities Conference in Long Beach, October 16th to the 18th. We were there to vote, we were there to attend the conference as well as to vote on 2 resolutions that were brought forth. Resolution number 1 was calling on the CPUC to amend the Rule 20 program, which was the undergrounding conversion projects deemed to have public benefit are eligible to be funded by ratepayers, and in so doing by expanding the criteria to include very high fire zones like our city. The action taken at the LOCC, it was referred back to the Environmental Committee for further review. It will be brought back to January to move in January to be moved forward. The second resolution was approved. It was passed unanimously, and this resolution was calling upon federal and state government to restore the original funding for cleaning up the water pollution coming across from the Mexican border into Southern California and to the Pacific Ocean. It was originally started in 1996 with the Border Water Infrastructure Program and was initially funded at $100 million a year and was reduced to $10 million. So this resolution is restoring that. And that is what I have for the League of Cities. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, the League of Cities is the association of all the cities, and the basic charter is to make sure state law does not impose requirements that the cities really should be deciding. There's about 3,000 members. There's apparently 3,000 elected officials, so about 2,000 of them were present at the meeting, and there was a discussion and a good networking, and also the event showed what kind of progress is being made in different areas, including greenhouse gas emissions, and also showed how different organizations are doing community type work. There was a program which I was very impressed by, is Kids Teaching Kids, which was started by a 10-year-old child, basically, who now is teaching coding to other 10-year-old kids, because he went to a camp and he asked his mother, how much does it cost? And she said, it costs a ton of money. And he said, what about people, whose parents can't afford it? He said, well, they can't go. He said, okay, I'm going to start my own program. So this 10-year-old kid has started a program where he basically goes to different communities and teaches all the children around them coding. And now the kids that he's teaching, they in turn have gone on with that program. So there's a lot of amazing work out being done, and hopefully we in Montecito can emulate some of that.
Okay. I have a report on the Santa Clara Libraries JPA Commission. We had the last meeting on that, which is the year-end meeting. They had a wonderful presentation about the health of the libraries, very dynamic organization, great operations. It was an interesting contrast to watch the library and all the positive results there, as opposed to all the criticism, well-founded criticism lodged at the VTA, or the ridership is decreasing and things are going downhill and management is not in good shape. We see the libraries use across the board going up, incredible programs, building up their reserves, working on their infrastructure projects. So a great program for the year-end libraries report. I would see if we could get that linked. I'll see if we can get the links to the full slideshow presentation that they provided to the board there. Because that's something that we really should share with Monte Sereno, with the success of the library that we're part of.
Daniel?
No. My committee's tomorrow, or
Okay.
Thursday. So.
What is it?
I have one more thing to report.
Okay.
Last month, I attended the 2019 Valley Water Walk Tour, which was fascinating. We visited the Anderson Dam, which is undergoing a seismic retrofit project that would protect it from earthquake and floods, as well as torrential rain runoff, and protect the neighboring communities. We visited the Upper Guadalupe River Flood Protection Project. The Guadalupe River Park and Flood Protection Project was nationally recognized as a model for effective flood protection, habitat restoration, and recreation in an urban space. We also, I thought the most interesting was the Silicon Valley Enhanced Water Purification Center, where we were taking reclaimed water and running it through 3 separate processes and creating clean, drinkable water. And that was absolutely fascinating, and given that we are sustainable to droughts, and we should have a reusable, available water resource. That was fascinating. And then the last thing we visited was the Bay Shoreline Project, which is the South San Francisco Bay. They're building, they're preparing for sea level rise, and so they will be restoring 25 square miles of natural habitat and providing public access, as well as building in protection for potential sea level rise. And that is it. Very good. Yeah.
Okay, so let me talk to you about the, I'm a representative of the Board of Directors for the California Cities Association. And I told you earlier that Newsom actually signed 18 affordable housing bills and 5 ADU bills. So the city, the association is going to form not a sub-region, but a collaborative group where all the cities, all 16 cities in Santa Clara County will get together. We're going to hire a consultant to work with ABAG. It is projected that our arena numbers for the coming 5 years will be as much as 250%. Okay? So I'm not going to take a vote today, but 50,000 divided by 16 cities will be about 3,000 to 5,000. We can join the group, the collaborative group, and then at any point in time, we can back out with no penalties. So I wanted to.
Just so the city council knows, this item will be on the next agenda.
So then we can discuss it.
Yeah, it's.
Get a staff report on it?
Yeah, we'll bring all the background information as well as a direction request.
I just needed to give them a report as to whether we are really against giving them $3,000, because that means that they're going to have to divide it by the remaining number of cities. So, since I don't hear any objections to $3,000, I'll say yes, we can go ahead and do that. Okay, so our next one is council member comments. No, city manager's report.
I have 2 things. Just an update regarding the salary and compensation survey. We've been working, of course, with Coffin Associates on putting that together. They are actually somewhat ahead of schedule, and I had a preliminary discussion with them regarding the initial results. The initial results look sound, so they have actually started moving forward with putting together a memo, which they will then present to us for its review. City staff will be bringing the memo and the results of that survey to the city council in a closed session at a future date for your initial review. And the other thing I wanted to do was, Andrea, can you flip us over to the other one? Is after much back and forth with ClearGov, and them actually not entering data correctly on numerous occasions. Finally, we got all of the pieces together that we needed in order to implement the program that we have purchased from them. And so as of yesterday, we were able to upload it to our website. So just want to quickly show you, we have a banner that's on that's on the homepage that you can click through immediately, directly from the homepage, which then takes you to the website. I'm not going to go into all the details. I'll let you explore it on your own. But it gives, of course, all of the city's data, gives some general information, takes a little moment to load. And we have revenues, expenditures, demographics. There's also going to be, I believe they're still working on getting it uploaded, but there'll be benchmarking for other similarly situated cities. So in general, we have implemented this fully with the exception of the benchmarking. There's also, if you don't go, hold on one second, from the home page and you go to our finance department page, you can also access it from there. There's a little more information about what we're calling the Financial Transparency Center. This has just the basic revenue graphs, expenditures, and of course, you can also view more details, and this will just take you back to the site where we just came from. So I think overall, they did a very good job, and we're finally getting it implemented, and I apologize on their behalf for that taking so long. That's all I have.
Great. Okay, so our next order of business is future agenda items. Seeing none, let's,
I do. I actually, talking about reach codes, et cetera, I was wondering if it's possible, when we were in Los Angeles County, we were required to have automatic gas shutoff valves. And so, and the argument is, if you're in an earthquake and you're unconscious, you can't shut off your gas. Is this something that we could potentially look at in terms of our building codes?
Probably have to handle it as a ordinance requiring it.
Would be, yeah. I mean, maybe that's just something to look into as opposed to a future agenda item. Mm-hmm. Okay, okay. And the other thing was, there's been a lot of talk about microgrids. I know that the utilities are going to look a lot different, I think, in the next few years, given talk about breaking up and taking over. So is that something that could be agendized, or maybe another, again, a discussion, or as a discussion, maybe? So maybe next year? Yeah. Beginning of next year, okay. Okay.
I think when you address that, like the disadvantage of the automatic meters is if there is any minor shaking, they trigger, and then you have to have PG&E actually come out to your house to relight. And so we've seen with the recent power shutdowns that took PG&E several weeks to come back around to light everyone's pilot lights, turn their gas back on, make sure that there was pilot lights, actually were lit and so forth before they would turn their gas on. So they can be more onerous than the idea of safety.
Actually never had that happen.
Probably something you guys might want to discuss if you could do some more research on it, because I actually worked at the city of Milwaukee about it. Like Dan said, good thing, I guess, some people look at it as a good thing, some people look at it. It'd be better if we just
Okay.
Yeah, shortly, just because we don't adopt it as a local amendment now, we could still adopt it as a local amendment, sometime early next year if that's the direction council wanted to go.
Yeah, I had a question on the website. Is that ADA compliant?
We're actually in the midst of we have a free refresh of our website that we're entitled to, and so our new admin clerk has been helping with that, and one of the things that they can help us with is an ADA refresh, she got several options from them for them to help us with that. I mean, not a refresh, but for a, they go through it to be sure that it is compliant. It does cost something, but it's fairly negligible, so I think we're just gonna go ahead and move forward with having Civic Plus, who hosts our website, to do that for us.
Yeah, because that's a state law, and there's attorneys going out suing cities or somebody that's not ADA compliant.
I'm well aware of it.
One other thing, and I might have asked you about it, does Montecito have a policy on short-term rentals, ADU rentals, or?
No, I think
That's gonna happen more as more ADUs get built. Do we need to consider some change in that policy? What policy do we have?
I apologize, I didn't know if I responded to everyone, or maybe it was just to you. The city's stance has been, we do not permit commercial uses, so technically, short-term rentals are not permitted. But we do not have a specific ordinance like many cities do.
But maybe we need to discuss that, because as ADUs get built and people start renting houses, you should have a policy so that they know we're not in the dock area.
What's considered a short-term rental?
And that's the.
Like Airbnb.
Well, less than 4 months? I mean, is 4 months a short-term rental?
No, it would be
So-
less than 30 days.
So that's what we need to find, that if it's less than 30 days, it comes under this, if it's more than 30 days, it's okay or not okay.
Right, but like I mean, currently, we consider it to be not permitted.
Is there ordinance out there, something out there?
Well,
Writing?
I mean, this has been the interpretation of our former city attorney based on the fact that we don't permit commercial uses.
Okay, so we need to look at that, I guess, to see what we can permit, and we have to be.
I'll have a discussion with our new city attorney about that and then get his opinion.
Yeah, and, okay, yeah.
Okay, are we done? So our next meeting is November 17th at 7 o'clock at City Hall. Since there's no further business, let's move to
It's
adjourn.
November 19th.
19th?
November 19th. Today's the 5th.
Yeah, 19th.
Today's the 5th, plus 14 is 19.